Thanks for tuning in to Streaming Futures. I'm Joel Holland, and we're in Atlanta, Georgia, at Southern Company, sitting here with Paul Bowers, who is the president of Southern Company Generation. So thank you very much, Mr. Bowers, for sitting down with us today.
Well, welcome to Atlanta, Joel.
And the first thing I'll ask you is to talk about why you chose this industry and why you chose energy. You had a lot of options. Mr. Bowers went to school, got a Bachelor of Science, went on to get a management, to get his master's in management, and actually went to Harvard and then got further management experience, and then chose this industry. You could have gone anywhere. Why energy?
Okay. When you look at kind of backgrounds, that really gets you the genesis of what really attracts people to just certain industries. And my father had an electrical business when I was growing up, and I always worked around with him in wiring houses or commercial buildings. So when I was leaving college, there was an opportunity to work at Gulf Power, one of Southern Company subsidiaries in Pensacola. And I said, okay, I want to get involved in that. Within 6 months, I was entrenched in the energy sector because not only from the opportunities, but we experienced a devastating hurricane called Hurricane Frederick. And seeing the activity, all our linemen and all the people harnessed to focus in on service and restoring service to customers gave hope to that community. And that kind of just got me engaged totally. So I totally committed to the energy sector.
Right. Now, it can't all be fun and games, though. There's got to be some bad with the good. What's the most difficult part about working in energy?
Well, when you think about it now, fast forward to where we are today, is trying to plan for the future.
Right.
What are the regulations going to be?
Right.
What is the load going to be? Is our economy going to be robust or not? And we have to really think about the long-term implications, because when you plan for a power plant and you're spending billions of dollars, you better be right.
Right.
And you better understand the regulation. What kind of environmental regulations are going to come forward, because you're making those bets with billions of dollars, and that shareholder wants a return. Right.
Now, touching on that, the shareholders, and this is a kind of a deep topic, but what is it like to work in a fairly highly regulated industry when the company's main goal is to maximize shareholder profit? But obviously, the government does have a hand in what you can and can't do, and prices and so forth. How does that influence an executive?
Well, when you look at our business, we have a retail business and a wholesale business. Retail is governed by the state jurisdictional body, which is the Public Service Commission. They oversee what is fair and just reasonable rates, and they have to look at all your costs. So you have to have a prudence of expense. When you say prudence, is it the right things to do? Are you spending it in a judicious way or not?
Right.
And they review that, and then they set a return for you in that retail area. In the wholesale market is market-based pricing, so it's very competitive. You have to go out and bid for the load, and you have to win in that market. And that market's not in these 4 states that we serve retail. It's overall the whole super southeast. So it's an enjoyable piece to have both retail and wholesale to have growth for our shareholder.
Okay. Talking more about the corporate side of the business now and the positions available. Your background, as I've been reading about it, heavily in marketing. You've been in a lot of the Southern companies as the head of marketing, SVP of marketing. How did you make the transition, from that over to the president, which obviously has different duties? And how do you find your place within a company like Southern?
Well, when you think about marketing, and it's kind of interesting, people think of it as the branding side, and you're doing commercials and things like that.
Right.
Within the utility industry or energy sector, the marketing piece is kind of the fundamental backbone of how pricing is derived, or what is the market's willingness to accept certain levels of prices, and what kind of price do you need to deliver out there. So we did a lot of work on pricing strategies, did a lot of work on forecasting, for that forecasting a load, what type of penetrations do you have in electric appliances, those type things. And you also have to think about energy efficiency. So that really captivated me in terms of what we do in the marketplace. Then fast forward, I moved from the marketing arena to running a business in England, which was an unregulated business.
Right.
But it's saying, okay, now let's take it to the next level and see how you can apply it to running a business. And then now we're in the generation business of trying to manage a fleet of 42,000 megawatts, one of the largest in the United States, and ensuring that we have low-cost, reliable, efficient generation for our customers.
Right. So it sounds like you kind of find your fit naturally.
Absolutely.
You don't need to push it. You go in there and based on your strengths and based on what others see as your strengths, you find that pathway through the system.
Well, that's one of the things about the energy industry as a whole. You start off at marketing to understand what the customers really desires and needs and want.
Sure.
Then you move into what really strikes your interest. Is it pricing, forecasting, the strategy side, or is it trying to come up with new financing opportunities?
Right.
And that's one of the things about our industry. We have such diverse backgrounds of interest that people can find their way in our business.
Let's talk about the international element.
Okay.
You went over to England at one point. What was that like? And let me say, a lot of our students coming out of college or at some point in their career have the opportunity to go overseas and work at a company that might be a domestic company that just has overseas offices. Is that something you suggest? Was it a good learning experience? What was it like?
It was an outstanding learning experience. At the time, Southern Company was trying to diversify in a global sense to be a global energy supplier. We were investing in infrastructures in England and in Germany and Asia and Philippines and the Caribbean. And what we saw is we were able to give people some experiences that they wouldn't have in the Southeast. Mm-hmm. Well, what we've been able to do, too, is see what our shareholders really wanted to invest in.
Right.
And we ended up spinning off that piece of the business, relegate it back to a more secure dividend-based type of business. Mm-hmm. And now we've taken those people that have had that international experience, brought them back to run our businesses for Southern Company. It's a good opportunity to get that, that global perspective.
Sure.
But you can get that in business school as well to get a global perspective just from casework that you do.
What was the most eye-opening part, that it was just like, wow, this is not how things are done in the United States?
Well, I think really there's nothing eye-opening because the basics of business are true no matter where you are.
Right.
Regulations are a little different. That was a little bit, something to get accustomed to because in the United States you have a forum to hear regulation. You have 4 or 5 members of a board of Public Service Commission or the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Mm-hmm. Over there they have one person, and he's called a Director General, and he makes the final decision. Wow. And so you don't have any recourse to try to influence a board on what is the right thing to do for your customers and your shareholders.
Okay, let's talk about education.
Yes.
Energy is something that looks interesting to us as early as high school, and we want to start getting involved in some classes, clubs, activities that will help kind of further our knowledge. And I know that you're a big proponent of technical education. What are some of the classes you would highly recommend to our students that they might not think about, but that would be great for the management corporate side of the energy business?
Well, when you're in high school, you have to start thinking about what do you want to do. Do you want to go to college or do you want to go out into the business world right now?
Right.
Either case, you need to have a firm foundation in the sciences, math and science, to get basic understanding about mathematical equations and understanding of the science, a little bit more on the science of physics side, but also some English. And then, if you're interested in not going to college, go to vocational schools to get a little bit more technical expertise.
Right.
Do you want to be an electrician? Do you want to be a mechanic?
Right.
And start getting some of those skill sets so you can be employable once you graduate from high school.
Right.
The big issue when we look at our business, there's tremendous opportunities. When I look at our demographics at the power plants, we'll be hiring people for the next 10 years.
Sure.
Because we have to replace the ones that are going to retire.
Right.
And we need the skill sets. We need good electricians. We need people that are technically competent to go look at instruments and controls.
Right.
So we need the basics on math at the first.
Right.
Now, if you're interested in college, get all you can of math and sciences, and I would suggest going into the technical field in college. Go down the engineering path because you will be in high demand when you graduate.
And then, and again, your background, you didn't do the engineering route.
No.
So is that something you wish you'd gotten a little bit more of the technical classes, in addition to?
Well, I had some technical class. I have, minors in mathematics, and I looked at being pretty proficient from a technical standpoint. So I was able to adapt when you get into the business, and the business will train you as well to try to be as efficient or as productive as you can be.
Right.
The thing that I see, though, is that if you can get kids in general focused on going a technical route right out of high school,
Right.
they will have a great career when they leave college or high school.
Sure. And then I guess as you did later on, you get your master's
Yeah.
In management
Yep.
to then supplement your skills.
Yep.
Okay. Now, out in the workforce, as you mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities arising in energy because the older generation is starting to retire. The younger generation is seeing all these new career options in technology, high-tech companies. So it sounds like there are opportunities in this industry.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we had to overcome is the stigma that we're a utility.
Right.
Now, when you go to recruit kids, a utility.
Yeah.
Now they realize it's much more than, quote unquote, the old utility that your mom and dad might have thought of.
Sure.
Because there's research going on in terms of new ways to meet the demands for the customers.
Yep.
With the high cost of energy going up, with every time you fill up your car, you see that.
Sure.
What other solutions can you provide to ensure that we have a backbone for this country and the economy in energy? So we have a lot of research.
Yep.
We're doing things uniquely in terms of how we operate our plants, so that innovates some creativity in terms of people coming into the business.
Right.
We have needs for creative financial paths in terms of looking at the best way to finance all these billions of dollars of investment that we have to make.
Right.
We have people that are interested in the construction side. We're building a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So we have a lot of different paths to interest a lot of different people with the varying backgrounds.
Yeah, on the basic level, lights on, lights off, that's energy, but it's actually a dynamic, changing industry. I mean, these days, a lot of renewable energy resources are always, topics of discussion. With hydrogen, with clean fuels, it's pressing issues, and a lot of research and development goes into that. So the energy sources we're using today are by no means the same ones that are going to be in use for future generations.
That's right, and that's a big part of our research. When you think about Southern Company and its focus, or the energy sector as a whole, what is that next iteration of generation resources? Is it going to be renewables? Is it going to be PV? Or is it going to be something to do with hydrogen? Or what are you going to do with the carbon? If you want clean coal, what are you going to do with the carbon?
Right.
Our folks are focused on that today to solve the problem in 2020 or 2025.
Right, and that's technological advancement. That's technology, so there's no stigma of utility. All right, well, my final question for you, I want to get your final words of wisdom for the viewers that are watching this. No matter where in the energy sector they fall in the energy industry, whether it's in technical capacity, in the management capacity, corporate, what are you going to tell them as they're going through their education cycle and they're getting ready to enter the work world?
When you look at your opportunities and you have this global economy that you're looking at, and you hear things about China and you hear things about India and all this new growth that's going to occur, what I suggest for you is to think about the energy sector, because any economy that's going to be driven for the future has got to have a competitive energy base. And from my perspective, the Southern Company is one of the best companies around. We continue to perform very, very well from a financial standpoint, but we give people great opportunities. We like moving people around. We serve a large area, and that gives you as an individual an opportunity to grow and maximize your value as you look for what you want to achieve in the future.
Terrific. Great interview with Paul Bowers of Southern Company. We appreciate your time.
Well,
we appreciate coming down to Atlanta to visit you, and we'll see you on the internet. We appreciate the advice.